Hey, what's up my friends? This is Headshot Homie coming at you with my 100 subscriber video special. This video will be a collection of answers and tips on regular questions that I usually get that might help you improve. The main reason for this video is because a lot of people come to me and ask questions and ask for advice, and there's some questions that just gets repeated over and over, so instead of having to tell multiple different individuals these tips, I'll just do a video about it instead. This video will probably not include the secret on how to win solo queue, but it will have some tips on how to improve your solo queue experience. And it might pop some ideas into your head. And I'm sorry if it didn't include everything you had on your mind, but this is it for now. Now, let's start this thing, shall we? The first and most asked question is always, how do I deal with ragers and flamers? This is the most asked question that I've ever received, and people tell me that ragers and flamers lose them their game because they either play poorly or they just distract everyone from the game. And sometimes they also end up leaving the game, and that's just bullshit. And well, the main thing you have to think about is that these people are necessarily not bad people. They either have a hard time being social, or they are just being stressed out by real life problems, or they are just on a huge losing streak, and you guys know how that goes really. So the best thing you can do to ragers and flamers is either mute them, or if they take your focus off the game, just try to soothe them with nice words without sounding too patriotic, because most people hate that. Um, but the worst possible thing you can ever do is to annoy them. They are at the moment pretty unstable and have a high chance of leaving if you annoy them further. So you will have to just deal with these people throughout the game if you want to win. And by annoying, I mean flaming them back or taking their minions or purpose or anything like that. Just don't annoy them. There's no reason to annoy unstable people like that if you want to win the game. That's your primary focus right now. That's winning the game. I know it's frustrating, but in the end, the elo is the blood and sweat, tears, and whatever worth it, I guarantee. Then we come to the second most asked question is always, why does my team always suck? And this is always the follow-up question, the golden phrase, the overstatement, and the one and everything. And there's a simple answer to a simple question. Your team doesn't suck. If this is how you feel, you have a major lack of trust in your team, and this will be the one of the biggest chains to hold you down. You need to change the attitude to a more positive one, because if you lack the trust in your team, you will have a much harder time in carrying the game. Because if you have the feeling of four people weighing you down, yeah, that's not gonna go well for you. But this is not the case at all. Just because it's called solo queue doesn't mean that you're the only factor in winning the game. This is the major misunderstanding in solo queue. Working well in a team is a much bigger factor than just winning your lane. All in all, you will just have to hashtag believe in your team, because even the greatest of men doesn't do it alone. The third most asked question is, why do I lose when I have an outrageous KDA? Oh man, this is one of the best questions that I've ever received in the history of me. And to an outrageous question like this, I will be detailed on what might be costing you the game. There's a lot of people who ask this and why they are stuck in bronze or silver or whatever when they have an outrageous KDA. It might not be a problem with killing your opponent, maybe it's more likely a problem when you're not using your advantage to win the game. Because you might drag out the games way too long by not taking towers when you should be, farming when you should be ending the game, wiping on a baron that you actually didn't need. There's tons of reasons. Leavers and disconnects is usually not a problem because everyone gets them. It's not because that the game hates you, even though you might feel like it. However, it can be frustrating to have a game destroyed by a lever or disconnect, so taking a break after this event is likely the best idea. It keeps you calm for the next game and increases your chances of winning the next game. But really, when you're dragging out a game longer than necessary, you might do so because you're having fun or you don't know how to end the game fast. But this is solo queue. Ending the game is your priority. So I'll start off at the dragging your game longer than necessary. If you have way more gold and items than your opponent, there's no reason for you to reach for more. That's really greed. You won't get a better opportunity to end the game when you're ahead in items and gold. So whenever you feel you're absolutely destroying the enemy, you should command your team or ask them nicely, whatever works for you, to head into whatever lane has most towers up to apply pressure. Because a lane with towers up are harder to push out for minions, and it will be easier to apply pressure when you have cleaned out a lane tower up till the inhibitor turret, whatever works for you. But you might not think that destroying a tower is such a great deal, but it brings you that closer to ending the game, so whenever you should and could destroy a tower, you should. But then there's the Baron, what we in the solo queue call the game thrower. You should never attempt a Baron when you're just a little ahead, because you will only take you should only take Baron when you're going for the final push. And there's a few tips for taking Baron. Oracles and Vision Wards are a must for baiting and taking Baron, because the enemy will most likely face check to make sure you're not getting Baron when they don't have any vision. Um, but when you can't take a Baron on more than 20 or 30 seconds, you should only bait the enemy team to thinking you're taking Baron, because Baron will wither you down and make you easy kills for the enemy team. And the last and fourth most asked question I will include in this video is, which champion do you prefer in solo queue and which champions do you ban? There are some champions that I want banned every single game if there's no one who's going to play them on my team, and that you should pick if open. But of course only if you're capable of performing with said champion. The first is Kassadin. Kassadin is a beast in solo queue. Because there's not much team communication running around, it's really easy to roam around the map. He can roam from level 6 and pick up kills wherever the fuck he wants, so this champion I either ban or pick myself, even though I'm not the greatest Kassadin player in the world. There's a few counters to Kassadin which can screw him over in laning phase if you don't watch out, which is Fizz and Pantheon. They deal tremendous early game damage and can gap close onto him really easily. So I recommend whenever you face this champion, these two champions are great versus him, and whenever you play as Kassadin, staying defensive early on until you can roam is the best choice. The second most banned champion for me is Elise. She's a highly mobile champion that does really well in jungle and that can deny pretty much any melee brews in the top lane. She's really strong solo queue because she can pick off people who's overextended and can easily render a top laner useless. Because Elise can both top and jungle, it's harder to do a counter pick on her because there's no saying where she's going. Elise have only a few counters, which include underplayed mages like Akali, Nuno and Galio, so she's a hard champion to face, that's for sure. So that's another thing. The third is Zac. Zac is one of the most overpowered top laners and junglers at the moment. Because of his innate maximum health damage on W, he can stack magic penetration, health and resistances and still deal tremendous amounts of damage. And if that wasn't enough, he has the longest jump in the game. So you can use this as an engager and an ultimate on top of people. It brings just certain destruction because you're so hard to focus down, and when you're going to die, you have a second life because of your passive. And his passive won't and can't be focused in the middle of a team fight without it going wrong for the enemy team. So definitely a strong pick here if you like to top lane or jungle. The fourth is Thresh. Thresh, there's not much to say really. He's the ultimate support that should be picked for the support immediately. He has the hook, he has the lantern, and he has the ultra slow, which damage is insane coming from a support. He is the best support around at the moment simply because his kit brings so much offense and so much defense, it's ridiculous. He's a support that can make even a brain dead AD carry go 5-0 if played right, so definitely a ban or pick for this guy. The fifth is Master Yi. Master Yi. The new Master Yi is simply outrageous. It made the old Yi look like fucking dumpster trash. He's a gorgeous jungler and a nice counter to set in the mid lane, but not much else than that. He's a mainly jungler, so stay in the jungle with him, people. He can clear the jungle at light speed, and if you play with him if you play with him on teleport and smite, he brings death and destruction to pretty much everyone who decides to overextend. And if you play with Zac in a top lane, you can teleport onto his blobs and make them immortal for the duration. So such a nice counter gank potential there. Also, Master Yi has so much damage that you only need 1 or 2 damage items to actually wreck people. Rest of your items can be tanking items, so you can just tunnel vision onto the backline and bring destruction. The sixth and last banner pick is Vayne. Vayne is the ultimate attack damage carry. She has the highest kiting except for Ezreal and is so hard to focus down because she kills tanks in a very few seconds, so She isn't hard to do good with in laning phase and destroys absolutely anything in the mid lane and the mid game and late game. So she can even one versus two or one versus three in most cases because of her absolute maniac movement speed and her constant spamming of stealth, repositioning abilities. So definitely a worth a pick, even as a top laner, because she counters most bruisers because of her true damage. These 6 champions is the main pick and ban for me in the current solo queue, because they bring so much to the team and can sometimes be considered a little overpowered. So I recommend either banning or picking said champions, but of course don't engage in champions that you don't know anything about or are not familiar with. Practice with these champions before you do anything drastic. Yeah, and this finishes up pretty much my tips or question answering video or whatever you might call it. I'm sorry if I didn't throw in the magic recipe for winning in solo queue in between the lines, but sadly that's because there is none. I can only give you tips on how to improve your game. Rest comes from experience. Thank you so much for watching this video. Um, I've spent some time on writing and editing this, so let me know in the comments if you liked the video, and then I might do more of the sort. Yeah, thanks for watching.